Welcome to the House of Horrors, where every story whispers from the shadows, and every sound hides something watching you back. You're here at the perfect time. Maybe it's midnight where you are, or maybe you're watching from the other side of the world. But no matter the hour, darkness always finds you. If you dare to stay, turn off the lights, turn up the volume, and don't forget to subscribe. And also tell us, where are you watching from and what time is it there? So let's begin. New Mexico is a land full of wide deserts, quiet towns, and mysterious places. Over the years, strange and unexplained incidents have happened here that have left people puzzled and scared. In this video, we'll explore 6 real-life incidents from New Mexico that are mysterious, chilling, and have no clear explanation. The house that answered back. Taos County. In a quiet rural area of Taos County, there is a small adobe-style house that locals avoid renting for long periods. From the outside, it looks ordinary. One floor, flat roof, no visible damage, no history officially recorded. Yet over the years, multiple tenants have left abruptly, often without explanation. The most documented incident occurred in 2018 when a couple moved in temporarily while working construction nearby. At first, everything seemed normal. The house was silent, isolated, and surrounded by desert land. No close neighbors. No traffic noise. Just wind and distance. About 3 nights after moving in, the couple began hearing sounds inside the house. Not footsteps, not creaks, but responses. If one of them spoke out loud, something would respond. The responses were not words. They were sounds. A low knock from inside the walls. A soft tap from the ceiling. Always after speech. Never before. At first, they tested it. One of them would say a sentence. A few seconds later, a single knock would come from somewhere inside the house. When they stayed silent, the house stayed silent too. Pause. The strange part was consistency. Every spoken sentence was followed by a sound. Louder voices caused louder responses. Whispering caused faint tapping. They checked for animals. Nothing. They checked pipes. No water movement. The sounds did not match plumbing or structure noise. One night, the man said out loud, half joking, "If someone is here, knock twice." There was a pause. Then 2 clear knocks came from directly behind them, inside the bedroom wall. They did not sleep that night. The following evening, the woman recorded audio on her phone. The recording picked up their voices clearly. But when played back, the responding knocks sounded closer than they felt in real life, almost as if they were coming from inside the phone itself. The couple contacted the property owner. He dismissed it, claiming no one had ever complained. But when asked how long tenants usually stayed, he avoided the question. On the 6th night, something changed. The woman said a sentence out loud, and nothing responded. Relieved, they thought it was over. Then a knock came anyway. But this time, it came before she finished speaking. Pause. The house had begun answering early. That same night, they heard tapping move room to room, following them as they walked. Not chasing. Tracking. When they stopped, the tapping stopped. When they moved again, it resumed from a new location. They left the house the next morning. Later, a local historian mentioned that the land had once been used for temporary burial during the 1800s, though no official records remained. The house still stands. It is still rented. And people still don't stay long. The night the desert lights stood still. Socorro area. People living near Socorro are used to strange sights in the sky. Lights moving fast, lights fading suddenly, lights changing direction. Most locals don't even bother reporting them anymore. But what happened one night in early 2020 was different. These lights didn't move at all. It began shortly after midnight. A ranch worker was driving home along a dirt road that cut through open desert land. The road was familiar, quiet, and usually empty at night. As he rounded a bend, he noticed 3 bright white lights ahead of him. They were low to the ground, too low to be aircraft, and too steady to be headlights. At first, he slowed down, assuming it might be parked vehicles or construction equipment. But as he got closer, something felt wrong. The lights weren't connected to anything. No visible structure. No shadows. Just three perfectly circular sources of light hovering about 6 feet above the desert floor. Pause. The moment he slowed further, his truck radio cut to static. Then silence. His dashboard lights dimmed, as if the power was being drained, yet the engine kept running. The sound of the motor felt distant, muted, like it was being swallowed by the air itself. He stopped the truck. The headlights illuminated the sand ahead, but the three lights remained unaffected, not reflecting or reacting in any way. They didn't flicker. They didn't pulse. They just existed. When he opened the driver's door, the air outside felt heavy. Not cold, not hot, just dense. He described it later as trying to breathe through pressure. His ears rang softly, though there was no sound source. He stood there for what felt like minutes, staring at the lights. Then, without warning, all three went dark at the exact same moment. The desert was instantly pitch black. Pause. Before he could react, the lights came back on. But something was wrong. His truck was no longer where he had stopped. It was farther forward on the road, angled slightly differently. The engine was still running. His seatbelt was still fastened. He had no memory of moving. Shaken, he drove home immediately. When he checked the time, his phone showed it was nearly 40 minutes later than he expected. His wristwatch, however, was behind by exactly 40 minutes. The next morning, he mentioned the incident to a neighbor. The neighbor went pale and admitted he had seen lights too, standing motionless over the desert that same night, miles away. Over the following days, more reports surfaced. Different locations. Same description. Stationary lights. Electrical interference. Lost time. Authorities denied any military activity. No tests. No aircraft. No satellite anomalies. The lights have never been seen again in that exact way. But those who witnessed them agree on one thing: they were not passing through. They were there. Waiting. The school hallway that never ended, rural New Mexico. The school had been closed for nearly 4 years. Low enrollment and budget cuts had forced the district to shut it down, leaving the building empty except for old desks, lockers, and forgotten supplies. For a while, it sat abandoned. Eventually, the district decided to use it as temporary storage, and a private security company was hired to patrol the building at night. One guard was assigned the night shift alone. He was experienced, former military, and not easily frightened. The job was simple: walk the building every hour, check doors, and report anything unusual. He learned the layout quickly. The school was small. One main hallway ran straight through the building, classrooms on both sides, exits clearly visible at each end. There was nothing complicated about it. On his second night shift, just after midnight, he began a routine patrol. He entered the main hallway and started walking toward the far exit. Everything felt normal at first. The lights hummed softly. His footsteps echoed lightly off the tile floor. After about a minute, something felt wrong. The end of the hallway wasn't getting closer. Pause. He slowed down and checked his surroundings. The lockers were the same. The classroom doors were the same. But the distance ahead of him felt stretched, unnatural. He kept walking, expecting to reach the exit any second. Instead, the hallway continued endlessly. Room numbers began repeating. He passed the same classroom number twice. Then again. His heartbeat picked up. He stopped walking and turned around to head back the way he came. The entrance was gone. There was no door behind him. No exit. Just more hallway extending in the opposite direction. The walls were identical. The lights flickered slightly, but did not go out. He raised his radio and called dispatch. The radio worked perfectly. His voice sounded calm, but he reported that something was wrong with the building layout. Dispatch told him to remain calm and retrace his steps. He tried. He walked faster. Then faster. The hallway never changed. The same lockers. The same doors. The same buzzing lights. The sound of his footsteps began to echo unnaturally, as if the space around him was much larger than it appeared. Pause. Panic began to creep in. He broke into a run. His breathing grew heavy. Sweat formed on his neck. Still, the hallway stretched on, unmoving, uncaring. Finally, he reached what looked like the end. There was a door. Solid. Real. Relieved, he grabbed the handle and pulled it open. He stepped through, and found himself back in the same hallway. The exact same hallway. At this point, his radio crackled with static. His watch still worked, but time felt wrong. Seconds felt longer. Sound felt distant. The air itself felt heavier, as if pressing against his body. He shouted. His voice echoed back, distorted, slightly delayed. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. He doesn't remember how. He doesn't remember walking back. He doesn't remember seeing an exit. The next thing he knew, he was sitting against the wall near the hallway entrance, shaking uncontrollably. 2 hours had passed. When another guard arrived, responding to repeated radio silence, they found him pale, confused, and unable to stand properly. He kept repeating the same sentence. It wouldn't end. Security footage was reviewed the next day. The cameras showed him entering the hallway. After that, nothing. No footage of him leaving. No footage of him returning. The hallway cameras recorded only stillness for 2 full hours. No movement. No distortion. Nothing unusual. The guard quit immediately and refused to ever speak publicly about the incident. Privately, he told coworkers that the hallway felt like it had separated itself from the building, like he had walked into a space that wasn't meant to exist for people. Within weeks, the school district sealed that section of the building. The hallway lights were turned off permanently. The doors were locked and marked as unsafe. To this day, no official explanation exists. The building still stands. The hallway is still there. And people who have worked nearby say that sometimes, late at night, the lights flicker on by themselves, only in that hallway. And no one walks it anymore. The voice that used the wrong name: Gallup region. The house sat on the edge of a quiet stretch of land outside Gallup, New Mexico. There were no close neighbors, no streetlights, and very little traffic after dark. At night, the silence felt heavy, broken only by wind moving across the open desert. The family living there had chosen the location for that exact reason. They wanted peace. For the first few months, nothing unusual happened. Nights were quiet. Days passed normally. Then, one evening, the father heard his name being called from outside the house. It was calm. Clear. Human. He paused, listening. The voice came again, calling his name from somewhere beyond the front yard. At first, he assumed someone was lost or needed help. But there was something slightly off. The voice pronounced his name incorrectly. Pause. The mistake was subtle, something only family or close friends would notice. Strangers often mispronounced it. Still, the familiarity of the voice made him uneasy. He opened the front door and looked outside. There was no one there. The following night, the voice returned. Same tone. Same calm delivery. Same wrong pronunciation. This time, it came from closer, near the side of the house. The family stayed inside and listened. When no one responded, the voice eventually stopped. But the feeling it left behind lingered. It felt intentional, as if whatever was calling out was listening carefully, waiting for a response. Over the next week, the voice appeared almost every night. Always after midnight. Always calling only the father's name. Never anyone else's. When the family stayed silent, the voice remained distant. When someone whispered or shifted loudly, it moved closer. Pause. One night, the father finally answered back. He stepped onto the porch and said, firmly, "Who is this?" The voice stopped immediately. There was no echo. No footsteps. No retreating sound. Just silence, sudden and complete. The next morning, the family noticed something disturbing. On the exterior wall outside the father's bedroom, long scratch marks had appeared. They were deep, uneven, and extended horizontally, as if something had dragged its fingers along the wall. The marks were too high to be made by an animal. Fear set in. From that night on, the family made a decision. No matter what they heard, no matter how convincing the voice sounded, they would not respond. They would not open doors. They would not acknowledge it in any way. The voice continued. Some nights, it sounded closer than before, almost as if it were standing right outside the bedroom window. Other nights, it moved slowly around the house, calling his name from different directions. The pronunciation never changed. It always got the name wrong. Pause. The mother began recording audio from inside the house. When listening back, the recordings picked up the voice faintly, but distorted, stretched, as if the sound itself didn't belong in the recording. On some nights, the voice sounded layered, like more than one source speaking at once. After nearly 3 weeks, the voice stopped coming as often. When it did appear, it sounded frustrated. Shorter calls. Tighter spacing. Almost impatient. Then one night, it came one final time. The voice called his name once. Louder than before. Closer than ever. Right outside the bedroom wall. The family stayed silent. After that night, the voice never returned. To this day, no explanation exists. No trespassers were ever found. No footprints were discovered around the house. No neighbors reported hearing anything unusual. The family eventually moved away. They refused to say exactly what they believed the voice was. They only warn others about one thing: if something calls your name at night, and gets it slightly wrong, it may not be trying to talk to you. It may be trying to learn how. The camera that filmed without power. Roswell outskirts. On the outskirts of Roswell, New Mexico, far beyond residential areas, a small salvage yard operated near a stretch of unused land. The area was isolated, quiet, and known for frequent trespassing. In 2019, after several theft attempts, the owner installed a basic security camera system. The setup was simple. 4 wired cameras connected to a recording unit inside a locked trailer. There was no internet connection, no cloud storage, and no battery backup. If the power went out, the cameras would shut off completely. This was confirmed during installation and testing. In late October, a severe windstorm caused a power outage across the area. Electricity was out for several hours overnight. When the owner returned the next morning, the yard appeared normal. Nothing was missing. No damage was visible. Once power was restored, he checked the camera system out of habit. The recording timeline showed activity during the blackout. At first, he assumed the timestamps were wrong. But the system logs confirmed there had been no power input during that period. Still, video files existed, covering nearly the entire outage. The footage was darker than usual, grainy, and silent. Most of it showed nothing but stillness and blowing dust. Then, around 2:13 a.m., one camera near the rear fence captured movement. A tall, dark figure appeared at the edge of the frame. It did not walk in. It seemed to emerge gradually, as if the darkness itself was forming a shape. The figure stood upright and completely still. No facial features were visible. No clear clothing or movement. Then something stranger happened. The camera angle slowly adjusted downward, centering the figure in the frame. The camera had no motorized movement. The mount was later inspected and found intact. As the figure raised one arm, heavy static distorted the image. The timestamp glitched, skipping seconds forward and backward. When the image cleared, the figure was gone. The footage continued for several minutes before cutting out abruptly. The owner contacted a technician to inspect the system. The technician confirmed the cables had been disconnected during the outage. There was no internal battery capable of powering the recorder. No explanation could be found for how the footage existed at all. The final frame revealed something deeply unsettling. A handprint appeared on the camera lens, pressed from the outside. The fingers were unusually long, stretched beyond normal proportions. When the physical camera was examined, the lens was clean. No dust disturbance. No mark of any kind. The owner removed the entire system that same day. He later sold the property and refused to speak publicly about the incident. According to the technician, one detail still bothered him most. The camera wasn't just recording. It looked like it was being watched through the footprints that stopped mid-step White Sands area. White Sands, New Mexico, is famous for its vast white gypsum dunes stretching for miles, empty and quiet except for the wind and occasional wildlife. It's a place where silence dominates, and the desert seems alive in ways visitors rarely notice. In the summer of 2018, a group of 4 hikers set out to explore a less visited section of the dunes. They had maps, water, and cameras, and they were confident in their route. The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows across the stark white sand, giving the landscape an almost otherworldly glow. At one point, they noticed a line of fresh human footprints crossing a flat stretch of the dunes. Barefoot. Adult-sized. Deep impressions, as if someone had recently walked across the sand. They followed the prints out of curiosity. The footprints were oddly perfect, every toe clearly defined, every step measured, spaced evenly. It didn't look like a sprint or a stumble, it looked deliberate, almost purposeful. Pause. As they followed the prints, the dunes stretched endlessly ahead, but the footprints remained distinct and uninterrupted. Strange, considering the wind had been moderate, which normally scatters sand quickly. The hikers began joking nervously, wondering if someone was nearby playing a prank. But there was no one in sight. No sounds other than the wind. After about 15 minutes, the line of footprints came to a stop. Not at the edge of a dune, not at a bush or rock, not in a way that made sense, they simply stopped. Mid-step. One hiker, a young woman, stepped closer, inspecting them. The final footprints looked as though the person had simply vanished. There was no drag mark, no sign of falling, no indication they had jumped or run away. The sand around the final step was perfectly smooth, untouched by wind or motion. The group spread out to see if there were any clues. Nothing. No tracks leading away. No disturbance. No shadows or signs that a person had hidden. The footprints simply ended. Uneasy, they took photos and continued hiking, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. Every time they looked back at the prints, they seemed sharper, clearer, like someone had just stepped through the dunes moments before. But the sun was beginning to set. The temperature dropped. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the dunes. By the time they returned to the trailhead, the group was silent, tense, and shaken. They compared photos and confirmed the footprints did not belong to any of them, and no one else had been on the dunes at that time. None of them reported the incident to authorities. They only discussed it among themselves. But one thing they all agreed on: whoever, or whatever, had left those footprints did not leave the dunes by any normal means. It simply disappeared. The photographs of the footprints remain. They are still shared quietly among the hikers and local desert enthusiasts. To this day, no explanation exists. And the White Sands dunes, they say, hold more than sand and silence. Sometimes, something passes through, and simply stops mid-step. So guys, thanks for watching House of Horrors. If you enjoyed this descent into darkness, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, so you never miss another nightmare. Signing off.